Hello again. I'm Gemma Kearney. I am the compere for today's Envision stage at FutureFest. Next, we have someone that everyone is very excited to hear from. Do use Slido at the end, not for questions, but for feedback, and we want you guys to be honest. So, yeah, lay it bare. Up next, we have got Nicola Sturgeon, the First Minister of Scotland. Sturgeon is the first female First Minister and the first female leader of any of the devolved UK administrations. So, like, big up. Give it up, right? Big up.
Thank you very much indeed. It's absolutely fantastic to be here. It's always a real pleasure to be in London, particularly at the start of such an exciting weekend. London Pride tomorrow, and of course the football. I would wish England all the very best for the match tomorrow, but I should tell you that the last time I wished a country good luck in the World Cup was 11 days ago, and I was in Berlin, so that didn't work out very well. So maybe I'll just let discretion be my watchword today. It is a real pleasure to be here at this FutureFest. I've been really looking forward to being here with you today. Listening to the news this morning, as many of you will have been doing, it's full of stories and speculation and commentary about the cabinet meeting at Chequers to try to sort out a Brexit position for what seems like the millionth time, and let's face it, a mere 2 years after the vote. So listening to all of that depressing news, I thought to myself that it is, and I mean this sincerely, a genuine tonic to be at an event like this, an event which is all about focusing on some of the biggest issues of our age, and doing so with a real sense of realism, optimism and open-mindedness. So I'm really grateful for the invitation to be here, and very grateful to Nesta for organising this amazing event. Nesta are actually neighbours of the Scottish Government in our London offices on the Embankment. But more importantly than that, Nesta are partners, valued partners of the Scottish Government in much of the work we do in Scotland. We're working together on issues like digital health, using collective intelligence to help young people in the jobs market, and harnessing data science to map economic activities. And we're developing even more exciting plans for collaboration in the future. And one reason for that, the most important reason for that, is Nesta's mission, using innovation to tackle social problems, really does define what the Scottish Government aspires to be all about in Scotland. Innovation, of course, is in Scotland's DNA. It's a key part of our history. It speaks to our very sense of who we are as a people and as a country. Inventions and discoveries from Scotland down the generations, from James Watt's improvements to the steam engine through to the telephone, the television, penicillin. Scotland even invented the overdraft, but we don't boast about that one as much as we do about the other ones. But all of these inventions demonstrate that Scotland has quite literally helped to shape the modern world, the world that all of us live in today. But innovation is not just about the past. It can't just be about the past. We know that innovation is central to our future prosperity, success, and to our future well-being. And that's why we've made promoting innovation the central focus of our economic policy. Right now, we are seeing lots and lots happening. We're investing heavily in innovation centres that bring together our university researchers and industry. We've recently started to establish a new national manufacturing institute to develop our strengths in modern methods of advanced manufacturing. And we're also in the early stages of setting up a new national state investment bank, because we want to provide the sources of long-term patient capital that allow our most entrepreneurial and ambitious companies seeking to tackle the big challenges of our time the finance that they need to thrive and to succeed. We're also very aware, and I think governments across the world should be even more aware of this, of the massive purchasing power of governments and the public sector, how public sector procurement can, if used properly, encourage and drive innovation. For example, we've established an initiative which is called SIFTech, and I'd encourage you all to have a look at it. It encourages entrepreneurial tech companies to pitch ideas which are about addressing specific challenges in our public sector. And it's a great way of solving those challenges in our public sector, but also doing that in a way that helps to develop new companies and new ideas. And at the very core of SIFTech lies the ambition to solve big societal challenges collaboratively and then export the solutions to the rest of the world. And in some way, that could almost serve as the Scottish Government's mission statement for Scotland's economy. We want Scotland in the future, just as we have in the past, to be inventing, designing and manufacturing the innovations and the products that will shape the world of tomorrow, not simply be a country that's consuming and using the products that are invented, designed and manufactured elsewhere. And we want to also ensure, and this is key in my view, that those innovations don't just benefit big business, but they benefit wider society as well. Because the fundamental issue that we're addressing today goes beyond, far beyond economics. The title of this session, How Can Government Shape the Future, raises a really important issue in my view. Governments around the world right now have a choice. We can choose to be passive in the face of rapid technological change, governing without acknowledging or adapting to the new world in which citizens live, or we can choose instead to be active participants and to seek to ensure that the economic advantages of new technology are captured not just by major corporations or indeed entrepreneurs, but captured by society and for the benefit of society as a whole. And that starts with a very basic issue. How do we measure our success as a nation? A couple of weeks ago, the Scottish Government launched our new National Performance Framework. It came together as a result of widespread consultation across all facets and aspects of Scottish society. But one of the key aspects of that framework, and that framework is all about setting the purpose of our country and then deciding the objectives and the benchmarks by which we measure success. And the key aspect of that is that it's not just measuring economic success. It recognises that sustainable economic growth is important, indeed essential. But it also emphasises increased well-being as a key indicator of our country's success. And that means that we measure very deliberately social and environmental progress together with the economic output of the country. We recognise that being a wealthier nation has to be the means by which we also become a fairer and a healthier and a happier country as well. And in order to achieve that, there's a big responsibility on governments not just to promote innovation through their economic policies, but also to adopt innovation in social policies as well. And Scotland, in many respects, is in a very strong position to do just that. As a country of 5 million people, a small country, we can be, and often are, agile and active in response to both social and economic issues. And we can also learn from our neighbours, both here on these islands and also around the world, and seek to adapt their lessons and experiences to our own circumstances. So what you will see, I hope, from government in Scotland is a sustained effort to use innovation and new technology to address the intergenerational challenges that affect societies right across the world. The transition to a low-carbon society, adapting to the ageing population, the rise of automation and artificial intelligence, these are all opportunities to lead as well as challenges to be overcome. And we want to seize these opportunities, but we also want to ensure that no one is left behind as a result of the changes that we are leading. A good example, I think, of that approach is climate change. We know that climate change is the greatest environmental, economic and moral issue currently facing the planet. Taking action, particularly for developed nations like ours, is an overwhelming moral imperative, but it's also a massive economic opportunity for countries that put themselves in the vanguard of change. And Scotland, for both moral and pragmatic reasons, is trying to do just that. Right now, we are the second best performing country in Europe for reducing carbon emissions. That's partly because almost 70% of our gross electricity demand now comes from renewable energy. In fact, the world's largest tidal array, the world's first offshore floating wind farm, and the world's most powerful offshore wind turbines are all currently in Scottish waters. In fact, if you let me digress for just a moment, the most powerful turbines that I've just mentioned there are 11 of them in total, are located just off the coast of Aberdeen. And a few years ago, you might have heard of these turbines because a famous golf course owner from America, who I think has now turned his hand to politics, decided to take the Scottish Government to court to try to block these wind turbines because he thought they spoiled the view from his new golf course. I'm very pleased to tell you today that the Scottish Government beat that American golf course owner in court, and these, just earlier this week, in fact, these amazing wind turbines generated their first electricity. They are marvels of engineering, but even more importantly than that, very soon they will be generating enough electricity for almost 3/4 of all homes in the city of Aberdeen. So we continue to promote renewable energy projects like that one. We're also focusing on other areas, like transport, for example. In Scotland, we've set an earlier target date than the rest of the UK for removing the need for new petrol and diesel cars and vans. We've targeted 2032 instead of 2040, and we're launching challenge funds to help local authorities test new approaches to encouraging electric and hydrogen vehicles. And again, there are both moral and economic reasons for doing this. All of us will benefit from cleaner air through low-emission vehicles, but we know that Scotland already has significant expertise in areas like smart grids and battery storage, so we're choosing to build on those strengths. If we can create a market and offer Scotland as a platform for testing new ideas, we can encourage early investment in new technologies, which can then be used around the world, creating jobs and investment while also improving our health and our environment. And as we do that, because we know that the move to a low-carbon world will fundamentally reshape our economy and reshape our society, we are determined to learn from previous industrial revolutions and make sure that we take everybody with us. We are one of the first countries in the world to commit to setting up a Just Transition Commission, helping us to ensure that we're considering economic, employment, social issues as we make that transition so that it is one that benefits everybody in society, not just a few. And I hope that's an important sign, a very clear sign, that we don't simply want to lead the world towards a low-carbon future, although we do, but we want to make sure that the benefits of that are shared across all of our society. We're adopting a similar approach in artificial intelligence and big data. Again, an area where we have amazing economic strengths and opportunities. Our cities are becoming established as major tech hubs. Companies like Skyscanner have been major success stories in recent years, partly because of the quality of our university research. Edinburgh University's School of Informatics is ranked as the best of its kind anywhere in the UK. That's why we're promoting new industries like fintech and why we've invested in the Data Lab, which is an innovation centre bringing together government, universities and businesses. And again, we want to make sure that all of that innovation is benefiting wider society. I mentioned earlier that adapting to an ageing population is one of the challenges, I have to say a hugely welcome challenge, that all governments across the world are now confronting. It's something which Scotland is addressing in a number of ways. We've already integrated our health and social care systems at a time when other parts of the UK are only now talking about doing that. But we're also determined to use data to drive improvements in how we deliver services for older people. The data lab that I've just mentioned recently worked with the NHS in Scotland and the Scottish Government on the issue of delayed discharge, a big problem in our health service where older people spend longer in hospital than they need to because the social care services are not there for them. That's an issue which causes unnecessary discomfort for older people, but it also costs our National Health Service a fortune. In Scotland, it costs the NHS something like £140 million every year. So the Data Lab is building an algorithm that can predict what patients are most likely to be affected by delayed discharge. And when the algorithm was checked using a sample of 13,000 patients in Scotland, it correctly predicted 124 of the 131 people who were then affected by delayed discharge. Now, it also showed a lot of false positive. It needs to be refined and turned into something that can be used in a clinical setting. But it demonstrates the potential to use data to identify patients who are at risk so early action can be taken. And that's just one of the ways in which the use of data can bring significant social benefits. Another innovation centre that the Scottish Government is supporting is the one focused on stratified medicine, where data is enabling treatments to be customised to the characteristics of individual patients. Again, an area where Scotland has huge potential to generate economic opportunities while improving the well-being of our population. Of course, for all of the many advantages of the technological revolution, we also know there's genuine and understandable concern about some of the disadvantages, the misuse of personal data, the potential for job losses in some sectors, the risk of exploitative employment practices, and rising inequality levels. So exploring new ideas and being open to different ways of doing things is going to be essential, which, for example, is one of the reasons that the Scottish Government is choosing to support pilots around the idea of a basic citizen's income, an idea that I think is worthy of exploration. It may ultimately prove not to be practical, but that's one of the reasons to support pilots. It's all about being open-minded, open to new ideas, because these kinds of advances are going to be important if we do what I'm talking about today, support that technological change, lead that technological change without disadvantaging huge swathes of our population. We also work closely, as I would hope and expect all governments do, with trade unions. We have worked closely with Scotland's trade unions in recent times at the impact of automation, highlighting the importance of investing in skills throughout people's lives so that they can adjust as technology changes. We've established a group that's looking at the collaborative economy and, in particular, the rise of platforms like Airbnb and Uber. Its work is looking at how we reconcile the challenges that are often seen as being in conflict, of how we make sure that platforms like those don't do harm, but at the same time, how we capture the benefits that they can bring. The full outcome of that work will be published shortly, but one of the steps we are taking is the launch of something called Shear Lab Scotland, which is another, I have to say, Scottish Government collaboration with Nesta. Shear Lab is a fund that will provide financial support and mentoring and advice to organisations whose platforms provide social benefits. It will have a strong initial focus on sustainable energy and transport, especially in our remote communities, but it will also look at other projects that can help or empower disadvantaged communities and individuals. And it's a further way in which we can promote major economic and technological change, the rise of collaborative platforms being an example of that, in a way that doesn't exploit people in our population, but instead benefits not just the economy, but wider society and the environment. The final point I want to make this morning to you is related to the video that you'll see once I finish my remarks this morning. The video is called Scotland is Now, and it should be viewed when you get the opportunity in a few moments, not just as a description of Scotland, but as an invitation to the rest of the world. Scotland's openness to new ideas includes an openness to new people and to new talent. At a time when, in my very blunt view, too many politicians across this country and many countries in Europe want to talk, often erroneously, about the negatives of migration and of people travelling across different countries, the Scottish Government has a very different message that we want to spread far and wide. We want people to come to Scotland. We want people to do us the honour of making Scotland their home and joining us in building the forward-looking, positive, progressive country we want to be. So while I'm aware that London is a great place to live, as are many parts of these islands, if any of you are thinking of moving, Scotland will welcome you. We are not full up, so please consider it. In the future, you will find the warmest of welcomes. And I can say that honestly at the moment because temperatures have been sizzling in Scotland over the last few weeks. But also, and this is the key point, our desire to attract new talent is a further reason for us, a further driver and impetus for us to ensure that Scotland is one of the most attractive countries in the world to work in, to study in, to live in, to visit, and to have new ideas in. We understand that it's the vibrancy of our cities, the beauty of our landscape, the quality of our public services, and our openness to new thinking and new ideas that will contribute to and benefit from the dynamism of our economy. Which takes me back, really, I suppose, to where I started, with the importance of focusing on well-being together with sustainable growth in our economy. We want Scotland to be a leader in scientific advance and technological progress. In many respects, we already are. But we're also acutely conscious of the need to ensure that technological progress aids rather than hinders social progress. In fact, I see that as one of the key roles for government. It's not enough simply to encourage technological progress. We also have to ensure that everyone is capable of sharing in the benefits of that. And I think in Scotland, harnessing all the benefits of being a relatively small country, if we can go even part of the way to achieving that, we'll certainly create a fairer and a more prosperous Scotland at home, but we can perhaps play our part in building a fairer and more prosperous world as well. And we can fulfil the mission I spoke of earlier of helping to solve societal challenges and then exporting these solutions around the world. And as we look to achieve that in Scotland, it is fantastic to have partners like Nesta who view the future with the same realism, idealism and optimism as we do. And it really is wonderful to draw inspiration from forward-looking events like this one. So I'm absolutely delighted to be here with you today. I wish you all well for the rest of the conference, and will end by thanking you sincerely for giving me the opportunity to share some thoughts with you today.